Where I live in Sligo has tried. We're so fantastic. It's become a technical university, and it's a huge investment into the area, and we're all so proud of it. But one thing I could raise, but if there, again, is going back to transport infrastructure, is about connectivity between all the campuses. So Galway, Mayo, Sligo, Donegal. You know, again, Western Rail Corridor, if that was opened up, it would make a massive difference, because we are the same in all the campuses, and particularly in Sligo as well. There's a huge problem with student accommodation, and also, and I've raised this also in here in this house about having an early train, a commuter train from Longford to Sligo, which would again would alleviate some of this. But I just want to commend this now, and I'm delighted to hear that there's a move towards reducing third level fees. I suppose my colleague Niamh Murdoch in the Labour Party would have introduced, abolished fees in 1995, and that had a very big long-term effect of getting more people accessing third-level education. But when I'm talking here, I suppose as well, I just want to take this opportunity to talk about the further education sector and the FET sector. I suppose it's a vast and diverse sector with many strings to its bow and can often be overlooked when you're looking at higher education. And many small towns have further education colleges which provide access to education for huge numbers of people who otherwise mightn't have had an opportunity to gain further qualifications here. And it'd be impossible for me to list out all these courses, but I know in my own constituency, like there's early courses that are offered from level 5 to level 6 courses, pre-nursing courses, physiotherapy, health skills, education, and complementary therapies, and I think these are they're an introduction for people that mightn't have felt supported in school, and school wasn't for them, and it's a pathway that might lead then into continue on with their education on their education journey. And I think particularly, like we'll say, areas such as Ballyshannon, Colooney, Mohill, Drumshanbo, Manorhamilton, all small towns which have all outreach to further education centres, and they are going to equip many entrepreneurs who will stay in their area and provide sustainable wealth that our future should be built on within rural Ireland. And I suppose from myself as a youth worker, from coming from a youth work background, I can see the pathway that for Youth Reach and community training centres provide a lifeline for so many young people who might otherwise have not got a meaningful qualification. And this holistic based learning, which is very much targeted based learning for young people, addressing their own needs with life skills, and is again serves as a pathway to move people further through traineeships and apprenticeships. And we're talking about apprenticeships pay. I know Senator Tully here would have raised this about, and my colleague Marie Sherlock brought this in as well. And I would encourage this bill to be supported, that that apprenticeships should be included in the minimum wage bill. Because, like we said, it's very hard. We know that there's a shortage, and I know from working in Sligo Training Centre myself that there is such a wraparound approach to students that are there, that their learning is tailored, that they're with adult education tutors, are being sure that they're supported in every aspect of their learning needs. So this brings me on though to, I suppose we need to recognise tutors, adult education tutors, and I know that there's been demonstrations outside Leinster House, and there's 3,000 tutors across the country are not being recognised with fair and equal employment rights when compared to teachers working in secondary schools. And they are teachers. They're employed, they're registered with the Teaching Council, they've the necessary qualification to be recognised as teachers, but they're not being paid as this. They're not, and many adult education tutors are not being paid for when they're teaching, leaving the dependent upon social welfare payments during college holidays. So that's not fair, and it doesn't make sense. So I think that the new pay scale for tutors, which the government announced last year, has turned out not to be the solution. In fact, it's deepened the unfairness. The new pay scales fail to take prior experience into account and assumes 52 weeks of work per year. Yet, as I mentioned, due to ETB closure centres, there are few tutors work for the full year, mostly work at a maximum of 37 weeks, which means that still that tutors are left that they have to sign on. So it's a necessity, I think, adult education, and I think the FET sector is a sector which often gets overlooked. Part of the National Training Fund, which I knew the money's been unlocked